What is your reason for not having a child? Stockwolf said, I haven't always made the best choices. I'm on the spectrum. I just don't think I'm fit to raise a child. Witch Elena said, I just don't think I'm fit to raise a child. I wish more people would assess themselves realistically and act accordingly. I have a lot of respect for people like you who know what their limits are. There are so many children who suffer because their parents are overwhelmed and regret their decision to have a child. It's unfair. I don't really know you and don't know if you are too harsh on yourself. I am not judging you. Clay 111 said, I'm a teacher. Chance of getting a good one, I don't mean academically, is less than 50%. Chance of being obsessed you do have a good one is 100%. Bad odds both ways for a 50-60 year commitment. I get the same odds, am paid to do it, get immense satisfaction from the job and am also free of the commitment. But nice Fluffy said, money. Time. No desire at all. My mom used to say having a child is like getting a tattoo on your face. You better be damn certain you really want it. Sandwich MD said, I'm turning 30 soon and still feel this is why I haven't had kids yet. Can't believe my dad was 5 years younger than I am now when I was born. Taking care of my very good and easy dog, having a job, and doing housework is too much already. Magic Sex Bomb said, I've been saying this since I was 10. Somewhere around my teen years is when I began vocalizing that I didn't want to ever be pregnant or birth children. I didn't want to raise kids, but if I changed my mind I would plan to adopt. It's just not a widely accepted point of view. Now I'm in my 30s and everyone has kids and I'm still like LOL, I told you I wasn't going to do it 20 years ago. How is anyone surprised? People will tell you that you'll change your mind. I haven't. Moosebutter29 said, I'm 34 and have 2 small children, 2.5 and 8 months. My wife and I made the decision to wait to have children until we were financially stable. A lot of comments about oh you waited a long time and whatnot. However, our only debt currently is our mortgage, which should be paid off in 10 years. DWRK92 said, me and my wife are 29 and have been married 4 years. Her mum has given up on expecting grandchildren. If the subject ever gets brought up, my wife gets told that she's leaving it too long. We are no way financially stable enough to have kids, and I once heard that a parent's goal is to give their kids a better life than what they had. I cannot provide this right now. Lava Mountain said, my mother put me last a lot of the time. For example, she would make me wait outside my school for hours and wait while she did whatever she wanted. Sometimes just relaxing at the house, making me feel entitled to ask her to pick me up on time. She never wanted to teach me how to drive because she made it seem like it's a hassle for her. I am now 23, and still don't have a license. But I finally have a job and make enough money to pay for my own lessons, $1,500 down the drain because she could never bother teaching me. I understand to a certain extent, but it's part of a parent's job to teach your kids life skills, right? I've had so much trouble with this idea. Now it's completely on my ball to have a relationship with her. She doesn't reach out at all or ask me to visit and it's up to me to call her and visit. Surf and Music said, I know what that feels like. My sister and I were always the last ones waiting after school to get picked up cause my mom just didn't fucking care enough to be on time. It's such a devastating feeling watching everyone get picked up and you're always the last one still standing there tired after a full day of school just wanting to go home and rest but you fucking can't. Taking the bus home was a 30-minute venture but oftentimes that wasn't even an option cause my parents are so stingy I couldn't afford it. One time I got so frustrated I started walking home. 45 minutes into the hour walk home they drive up to me and are laughing at me for being upset enough to walk home. I didn't get in the fucking car. Jamie has said, man, your story just reminded me of a childhood I put behind me. When I was little, grades 1-5, I would wait for hours after school to be picked up. Like, everyone would have gone home, even the nuns, except for one, would head back to their living area. My mom worked 60 hours a week because my dad gambled all her money away, and he was mostly out just getting drunk. He was supposed to pick me and my brother up. He would never be in time. One time, it was so late, it was close to midnight, and my brother and I just waited at the entrance of the school. Suddenly, my mom comes, picks us up in a panic, brings us home and proceeds to fight with my dad for just hanging out with his friends instead of picking up the kids. I'm married now. My wife makes good money, as do I, but I spend so much time in the office, I would never have time for kids. They would be the ones with parents who don't pick them up, and I definitely won't let that happen. Party Cryptographer 8 said, I'm fundamentally a selfish person, and I believe raising a child properly requires unselfish behavior. Another question I think people should ask is if they would be emotionally prepared to raise a severely disabled child. If the answer is no, then you should approach having a biological child with more consideration. Lost at 8970 said, I've chosen not to pass on my mental and physical health problems. I can see negative traits from both my mother's and father's family and decided not to continue the line. I do, however, want to adopt. Alongside my unwillingness to curse a human with my genetically passed ailments, I also want to care for a child that has been left or abandoned. They need love before I create something that needs love. Vacuum Brain Bimbo said, it's like super permanent markers. You would think the concept of permanent would be a dichotomous one, but some manufacturers apparently want to convince you it's scaled along a gradient. I was once accosted by an unfortunate person who grabbed me and shouted, please help me. I am very homeless. That emphasis on very is still probably my favorite example of dishonesty in marketing. Tibbity said, and not being convinced I'd be a very good parent. People look at me funny when I try to bring that up, because I think most people feel if you're not a bad person you should be a good parent, but I don't agree. You have to be so patient and committed to raising your kids in order to be a good parent, and I just don't see myself being able to do it. Also, it's not hard to find stories of how bad parentage completely ruin a child's life well into adulthood, and it doesn't even require the parent to be abusive or anything drastic, just not be fully committed to parenting. Maybe you get a little distant, or you don't really to put in the effort in the early years. That shit can have lasting effects on a kid. Public Hour 2238 said, I have Crohn's disease and I would never wish this on anybody. My husband and I are too selfish for children. We like having money and being able to do whatever we want when we want. I also had a hysterectomy, so I genuinely can't bear children. We love our nieces and nephews and get to spoil them when we want. Zagmat said, I think that it's a defensive mechanism, and only ever found in existing parents. Parenting takes so much time, dedication, and energy, and it's often a miserable, harrowing experience. Parents have to find motivation to keep at it, no matter how hard it becomes, and this seems to manifest mainly in the personal belief that having a kid is literally the best thing in their lives. Some parents, when faced with a person who rejects the call to have kids, see this as a rejection of the idea that having kids is great, which they interpret as an attack on their belief that their having had kids was the best thing they've ever done. Trigger Happy Lettuce said, expenses, stress, responsibility. I have a lot of mental plus physical problems, so it wouldn't be fair to give that down to her or him. In this world? No thanks. I don't want him or her to worry about the changing climate, upcoming wars, etc. And I like to do what I want to do, anytime I want. Forgot to add. I work myself to death every day, and for what? The possibilities of cancer or other fucked up diseases. The society of today is moronic. I spent many years in school getting stissed out and bullied for nothing. Since I don't use anything I learned there, why should I send them there then? Darth Dragon said, there's a lot of these archived. I'll say it again though. Unless I can guarantee the best education, environment, and as many advantages as possible, I find it personally immoral to yank someone out of non-existence just to have them roll the dice at maybe ending up lucky and having a good life despite everything. There's more reasons than that, but that's the big one. And before the knee-jerk reply happens, I find it immoral for myself to do it. Feel free to not justify your life decisions against mine. Kellerth1 said, I wanted to be a mother my entire life. I've struggled with self-love, and due to this settled when I met my now ex-husband. After getting married and not conceiving, I started seeing a fertility doctor. Many tests later it was determined that despite my PCOS I was able to conceive. So on to my husband's turn. He literally only had to deliver sperm to the doctors but managed to find every excuse not to. Flash forward a few months and I find a large bag filled with tiny wax paper envelopes on our counter, all empty. After Googling, I determined they were empty heroin baggies, and with the help of his mother and uncle, father not in the picture, we held an intervention. My ex-husband then spent the next 6 months in rehab out of state, paid entirely from our savings since our insurance sucked. Once he returned home he relapsed, bled out bank account dry, and eventually gave my brand new car to his drug dealer for payment on a debt. I was out of the country for work at the time and was unaware of this until it was too late. 4 years later and we're now divorced, and I have no desire to ever be in a relationship again. So, my reason for not having kids? This world is too messed up and I don't want to put anyone through the pain of having to deal with it. Hometown Gypsy said. Personally, it hasn't been the right time yet. I was seriously starting up the foster parent process before the pandemic, and then things got weird. I was worried about job security and didn't want to bring an already vulnerable child into that situation. Now that things are more stable, I'm looking into it again, making sure I'd have a good support network and that I'm mentally and physically prepared to be there for a kid who has been through trauma. I don't want a biological child because I have no desire to be pregnant. And I worry about bringing a kid into the world right now. I feel much more called to parent, not necessarily have a child of my own blood. So foster parenting and adoption are the routes I've chosen. Jack Koff said. Oh man, so many reasons. I love my freedom. Unlike a lot of people, I'm able to occupy myself and live by myself easily. I think a lot of people have kids purely because they don't know what else to do with themselves. Genetic issues, bad depression runs in the family. Due to the above, I'm 33 and never really had a real relationship. It would take a lot to go from that to kids within a reasonable genetic time window. People always envision the ideal situation, how the kid will be, how life would happen around the kid. They don't think about what would things be like things didn't happen the way you wanted. There's too many goddamn people in the world already. Like, for real, it's not just a colloquial anymore. Stop. I don't have the money to do it right. Obviously the kid might not share my perspective, but I often wonder if I would have even chosen life in this world over not. Way too much responsibility without an escape route. The idea of permanent life-changing decisions that aren't obviously good frightens me. I think a lot of people have kids purely due to intense societal, cultural, and family pressures. I feel none of these things and am thus unaffected. For all of the above reasons, my heart wouldn't be in it. If my heart isn't in it, then I don't want to do it at all. Universe 7 said. I don't know if I will or won't yet because part of me would be proud to have kids, but reasons why I'm considering not having kids are? Kids are expensive. I've grown up in poverty and had to miss out on so many things other kids around me got to do. Going to Disney, or family vacations in general. Other kids didn't even know what Operation Santa was. Other kids got to join sports teams, etc., and I wouldn't want to put them through that. In today's society, that shit is valued. I was heartbroken repeatedly as a child because we couldn't afford to do anything. To this day, as I am 21 years old, my parents have never gone on vacation. I have been, but only with friends, and they were simple things like going camping. I have so many things I want to do. Travel, keep my friends close, or just be able to simply not have the responsibility of needing to wake up early to cook breakfast or not being able to attend plans because of my responsibilities. It's a shitty world. It'll probably end much sooner than some of us would like, and even if we somehow reverse climate change, look at today's politics. Politics mean a lot in my family, as we are a family of immigrants and LGBT people. In a way it's getting better, but emotionally, it's harder because of social media and media in general. Delicate said. My mother died when I was young, and from then on I was abused, and the past decade of my life has been nothing but work and survival. I would be scared that my partner and I would also die and my poor kid would be left with no one, which is so honestly so awful and lonely growing up. I never got taught how to shave or braid my hair or even brush my teeth properly because when my mother was alive she was sick and in hospital all of the time. I want to actually live my life for a bit and have good experiences. I never got any classic experiences like going shopping with your friends or going to parties, sleepovers, holidays, or on nature trips. I want to go to animation summits and music festivals and Renaissance fairs and stuff. My entire teenage years were non-stop studying, then working after school at a miserable job while in pain, doing homework on my actual breaks and doing housework and trying not to get hit or screamed at or have everything I care about taken from me. I just want to fucking rest and heal now. I am sick of work and no breaks and just being in emotional and physical pain all of the time. I also have severe chronic pain, a damaged sciatic nerve, a slip disc and possibly ADHD, none of which I get any healthcare for really. Pregnancy and birth would fuck me up so much that it would make me unable to actually care for my baby, defeating the point of having a child, and I would be absolutely miserable no matter how attentive my partner is. I would either pay for a surrogate or adopt, both of which are extremely expensive, so I won't be having a kid anytime soon. Shittiplin said. 1. I don't want to be pregnant, having a parasite inside me that could kill me? No thanks. 2. I don't like babies or young kids. They're annoying and crying bothers me even though I know they can't help it, that's just how they are. 3. BC they annoy me, I'd be a bad parent. I don't have the patience, empathy, and kindness required to treat them with respect. I would probably yell at them and get mad and mess them up for life. 4. I don't have to worry about finances, the size of my house, or that my BF and I will never make a whole lot to our careers. We can just focus on ourselves and what makes us happy. 5. We both have a family history of health issues and those combined would suck for the kid we would make. 6. I'm pretty sure the world will end in my lifetime, so I don't have to worry about the future they'll be living in. 7. I'm very annoyed by everyone assuming I want kids or that I'll change my mind. BC I'm a woman, so honestly it feels good to spite them and double down. Like maybe when I was a teenager I would have been open-minded, but since I was hounded on it and my opinion was constantly dismissed, now I extra don't want to. Fuck you. 8. My child-free aunt and uncle have a fun life together, and that's what I want for myself. 9. I know being pregnant can mess up your sex life, and it changes your relationship, and I don't want that. Things are good right now, why mess up a good thing? Plus I really don't want hormone imbalances and postpartum shit, I'm already not the best mentally tbh. 10. Keeping them alive is a lot of responsibility and I don't think I could emotionally handle the guilt if something happened to them. The list goes on. Laura Methlower said. I feel like the question should be what's your reason for wanting a child, because that is an action of desire where there is motivation behind it. Not wanting something is a lack of motivation, a lack of desire. Why don't you want a crying, pooping, completely dependent, tiny, incapable person that you have to look after for the next 18 years of your life and sucks all your money away just to keep alive? I feel like the question answers itself. What I really want to know is what innate sort of instinct is it in people that makes them want to have babies despite the immense amount of negative repercussions. That's the real mystery to me. GR4V17Y316 said. I can't stand kids, especially shitty ones. See number 1. I enjoy the freedom I have in my life right now and do not wish to dedicate all of my finances and free time to raising a human. There's already too many of us here, I'm not gonna add to it. It ain't like it used to be. I grew up in the 90s and it was fun. It was a good time. I couldn't imagine growing up in the 2020s. This is a horrible time for children. Could you imagine how shitty it would be to be in public schools right now, and everyone's embarrassing moments are saved on the internet? Plus there's garbage like TikTok and Twitter, and all sorts of cringy trends and subcultures, and everyone gets fucking offended by everything. I couldn't hope to explain and teach all of the nuances and things to a tiny human when I don't even understand half this shit myself, nor do I care enough about any of it. It's literally a fucking global pandemic. Having a kid right now is honestly irresponsible and risky. Your kid could immediately get sick in hospitals or a place you don't want to be in right now. Lulo42 said. I think it would be extremely irresponsible to bring a child into a collapsing world. We are standing on the precipice of a major extinction event that is 100% man-made, and it's becoming more and more clear with each passing day that there is nothing we can do about it. Not only that, but there are people outright refusing to help or change their ways out of pure greed. When I was little, environmental scientists said we still have decades before we reach the point of no return. Nowadays they say we're probably already past it. We only have 10-20 years of normal life before the shit truly hits the fan, as if catastrophic wildfires, floods and heat waves, not to mention the current pandemic, weren't enough already. It would be selfish to create a life only to subject them to all this. I sincerely judge people that decided to get a kid during a global pandemic. And it's only downhill from there. Besides the existential doom, I simply don't want one. My husband doesn't want one. We can't afford it, don't have the patience, have bad genes, and don't even like children. And before you will change your mind when you're older, no, shut up, and nobody cares. I live on a dying planet and probably won't even see retirement at the rate things have been going so far. Just throw me in the trash when I die. And go watch Sir David Attenborough's A Life on Our Planet. Darkone06 said, technological progress and fighting with future AI in this capitalistic society. Hear me out. Moore law basically states that most technology doubles in 2 years. In done aspects we are already doubling faster than that. So pick a task, any fucking task. If we start today to automate it, it means we should have a basic prototype to replace it in 2 years. It would still require a human to oversee its operations, but the difficult work would mostly be fine by the machine. I'm 2 years after that we should have a machine that is starting to get to almost human level performance, but it needs human interaction and guidance. 2 years after that the machine should mostly be able to do it in a way that rivals human workers. It would need minimum human interaction, mostly feeding its supplies. 2 years after that it would mostly be fully automated. 2 years after that, out would no longer make sense to hire a human. A machine should be able to do it faster and more reliable than any human could. So in 10 years if you pick a task and work hard at automating it, you should get close to a solution that no longer involves humans. How is my kid going to compete with that? 18 years to get a kid ready for minimum wage jobs and responsibility versus a fully automated solution in a decade. This is coming faster than you think. Most of it is already here. Of the wall technology, it is just waiting to be put together towards a dedicated task. Asaya said, I don't want my child to get my mental illnesses at some point in his her life. No one deserves to suffer like this. Also, the world is in a weird state and I don't think it's going to be a cool place to live. Mental illness could make it worse. It would just be cruel of me to have a child. Also, I want to take my time to do projects and stuff, and not to take care of children because they cost a lot of money. I prefer taking care of already existing people and gain money doing it. Also, it's more eco-responsible not having too much children. I'm going to get sterilized as soon as I can. Wandering Balloon said, I do not have the desire to carry a child for 9 months. The pain of labor is absolutely horrifying. I've never even wanted children. I like taking care of cats. I love my job, and putting all of my effort into my work, and I love coming home after my job to be able to 100% relax and do whatever I want with my other hours before bed, including working out, working on hobbies, vegging out on the couch, and then sleeping blissfully without a care for anyone else except my husband. I have no desire to take care of another human, except for my husband and my family. I like my life just how it is. I have never wanted children. I will never want children. And I work in the school system, so I get to be around children, hear their stories, listen to them, answer questions, help them out, and then I get to send them off to live their lives. I just don't want them. And no, Karen, I won't change my mind, and I don't want to be pressured to do so. Edited. Fixed to there. Error. Aiden'sm123 said, I'd like to be a parent and plan to at least adopt at some point, but I don't think it's ethical to birth a new person anymore. The current state of the world already looks very bleak. Not to be a doomer, but all of civilization seems to be in decline with climate change pointing a gun at our heads. The scientists' predictions are that life is going to be pretty awful by 2050, when I'll only be 53. I expect the economy and state of late-stage capitalism to be even worse than it is now. Giving life to a new person seems just so selfish and irresponsible. There are already children alive who need a parent.